You never forget the moment when someone who once made you feel like the center of the universe stops orbiting around you. It happens in silence more often than in screams. It happens in the space between unanswered texts, the growing pauses in conversations, and the way his good morning messages faded into memory like a dream you couldn't quite hold on to after waking up. One day you're everything. The next you're just there. Not hated, not even disliked, just quietly unchosen. But here's what he didn't expect. He didn't expect you to wake up. He didn't expect that while he was busy playing tug of war with your soul, holding on just enough to keep you hoping, but never enough to truly love you, that you'd stop, that your hands, scarred from holding on too tightly to someone who never truly held you back, would one day just let go. Because there's a difference between losing someone and releasing them, and you didn't lose him. You let him go. That's the part he never calculated. That's the plot twist he didn't see coming. He thought you'd wait forever, that your heart was a revolving door with his name engraved in the glass. He thought your worth was tied to his attention, that every breadcrumb he dropped would be enough to keep you following. But you stopped following the trail. You stood still, turned around, and finally walked away. And that's when the real story began. This is not a story about heartbreak. This is a story about resurrection. It's about a woman reclaiming her power. About the soul-deep shift that happens when you realize the person who broke you will never be the one to heal you. It's about what happens when you look into the mirror, eyes swollen from crying, heart cracked open, and whisper the most powerful words you've ever spoken to yourself. No more. But let's go back, because this moment didn't come easily. There was a time when his love, or the illusion of it, was everything. He made you laugh in ways you hadn't laughed in years. He knew your favorite song, your favorite coffee order, and just the right words to say when the world felt heavy. He saw you, or at least, he made you believe he did. He looked at you like you were magic, and in return you gave him access to the most sacred parts of you. Not just your body, but your mind, your dreams, your fears. You let him read the chapters of you no one else had touched. You handed him your vulnerability, like a glass heart, and trusted he would carry it carefully. But slowly, he stopped reading. He got bored with the story. Or maybe he never wanted to understand it at all. Maybe he was only ever interested in the thrill of the prologue, the part where he wins you, not the part where he keeps you. And so he let you go, not always with words. Sometimes it was in the way his eyes no longer lit up when you walked in. Sometimes it was in the subtle distance he put between you on the couch. Sometimes it was in how your laughter no longer pulled laughter from him. He let you go in pieces, and you tried to hold on to every last piece. You told yourself it was just a phase, that if you loved him harder, he'd come back, that if you lost 5 pounds, if you became less emotional, if you were more like the woman he used to adore, then maybe he'd see you again. You turned yourself into origami, folding, bending, shrinking, until you barely recognized yourself, and still he didn't come back. But here's the thing about bending for someone else's comfort. Eventually, you snap. You reach a point where the pain of holding on becomes greater than the fear of letting go. And that's when it happened. It didn't look like a dramatic goodbye or a slammed door. It looked like you waking up one morning and realizing you hadn't checked your phone to see if he texted. It looked like you laughing, really laughing, for the first time in months, and realizing he wasn't the one who made you smile. It looked like silence, peaceful, powerful silence, because letting go doesn't always feel like triumph. Sometimes it feels like surrender. Sometimes it feels like collapse. But after the collapse comes the rebuild. That's where your strength lives, not in pretending the pain didn't exist, but in deciding it no longer defines you. You let him go, and here's what happens when you do. You stop chasing closure from someone who benefits from your confusion. You stop arguing with potential. You stop romanticizing the idea of what could have been, and start accepting what was. You remember that love is not supposed to feel like begging. It is not supposed to feel like proving your worth to someone who sees your value only when it's convenient. It is not supposed to be this exhausting performance, this constant test, this quiet war you're always losing. Love, real love, is peace. It's not always easy, not always perfect, but it is safe. It is kind. It is reciprocated. And what he gave you was not love. It was attention dressed up as affection. It was control wrapped in compliments. It was possession disguised as passion. He didn't let you go because he no longer cared. He let you go because he thought he could always come back. He thought your heart was a place he could visit whenever loneliness struck. He thought you'd always answer when he reached out, that you'd always leave a light on for him, no matter how many times he walked away. But the light's out now, not because you became cold or bitter, but because you finally realized your heart deserves more than being a revolving door for someone else's indecision. You let him go, and in doing so, you found yourself. And that's the part that shakes him. He doesn't miss you. He misses the version of himself who had the power to hurt you. He misses the way your love made him feel important. He misses the way you forgave him before he even apologized. The way you stayed when you should have left. He doesn't miss you. He misses access to you. But access is not a right. It's a privilege. And you've revoked it. Because here's what real self-love looks like. It looks like choosing peace over potential. It looks like releasing someone. Not because they were never good, but because they're no longer good for you. It's understanding that love isn't supposed to feel like you're constantly being unchosen. And when you finally understand that, you rise. It's not immediate. Healing is not a staircase. It's a spiral. You'll circle back to the pain sometimes. You'll hear a song, smell his cologne, drive past the coffee shop where you used to sit and laugh, and it'll hit you like a wave you thought you were done drowning in. But each time you'll come up for air, a little faster. Each time you'll remember that your worth is not anchored to someone else's inability to love you fully. You'll remember that letting go was not weakness. It was wisdom. You'll begin to rebuild, not just your life, but your sense of self. And let me tell you something about that version of you. The one who rose from the wreckage, who stitched her heart back together without him, who learned to love herself louder than his silence ever was. That woman, she's unstoppable. She doesn't beg, she doesn't chase, she doesn't settle. She radiates a kind of quiet confidence that comes from surviving the storm and learning how to dance in the rain. And when he sees you again, whether in person or in the life you build without him, he will feel it. That shift, that power, that undeniable sense that you're not the woman who once waited by the phone. You're not the girl who once cried herself to sleep, hoping he'd change. You're the woman who let go, not because you stopped caring, but because you started healing. And in that healing, you stopped asking why he let you go, and started asking why you ever held on for so long. But that's the beauty of heartbreak. It doesn't just show you who someone is, it shows you who you are. And you are a force. You are the calm after the storm, the fire that still burns, the softness that survived. He let you go, yes, but he didn't expect you to walk away with your head held high. He didn't expect you to rise. He didn't expect you to become more in his absence, not less. He didn't expect that by losing you, he'd lose the only version of himself that ever felt worthy. And now it's too late. Because when a woman truly lets go, emotionally, spiritually, energetically, there's no going back. The door isn't just closed, it's bricked over. It's buried beneath the foundations of her new life. She doesn't hate him. She doesn't resent him. She doesn't even miss him. She simply outgrew him. And that, more than anything, is what he never saw coming. He didn't expect to look at you one day and not recognize the woman in front of him. You see, when he let you go, he thought he was placing you on pause, not realizing that you were never a song to be stopped and restarted. You were a whole symphony, unfolding without him. He assumed he could pick you back up where he left you, like a forgotten book on the shelf, collecting dust but still waiting. But what happens to a woman in the silence after she's left behind is nothing short of sacred. At first, there's chaos. The echoes of old memories clinging to her like ghosts in a room she hasn't aired out yet. Her heart doesn't know whether to scream or stay silent. Her body still flinches at the absence, still checks her phone like muscle memory, still hears his voice in the spaces between thoughts. But then comes stillness, and it's in that stillness, when the world stops spinning and the noise of need quiets, that she begins to see clearly, not him, herself, because heartbreak is a mirror. It shows you not only where it hurts, but where you handed away your power. She remembers how she used to lower her voice to make room for his. How she'd rearrange her schedule, her needs, even her boundaries to accommodate his moods. She remembers all the "it's okay," she said, when it wasn't okay. All the nights she swallowed her own silence so he could feel loud, so he could feel loved, and it hits her. She wasn't loved. She was used, not in a malicious way. No, he didn't plan to break her, but some people love you for what you give, not for who you are. They love the reflection of themselves they see in your eyes, the way your love makes them feel special, powerful, irreplaceable. But when loving you requires effort, when it asks them to grow, to be consistent, to choose you fully, that's when they falter. Because choosing someone fully isn't for the weak. It takes strength to love with depth, to commit, to stay when staying means facing your own flaws. And he chose the easy way out. He let you go not because you weren't enough, but because you were too much truth for someone not ready to meet their own. But now you're not waiting for anyone to meet you where you are, because you've moved. You've relocated your heart from his indecision to your clarity. You've shifted from begging to boundaries, from longing to living. The journey wasn't pretty. There were days you felt hollow, nights when your tears soaked the pillow, and your mind replayed conversations, wondering where it went wrong. You searched for signs, reread old texts like sacred scripture, trying to decode a love that never spoke in full sentences. But healing isn't about finding the answers, it's about realizing the questions were never yours to carry. It's about understanding that someone else's inability to love you doesn't mean you're unlovable. It means they were unequipped, ill-prepared, emotionally unavailable, and spiritually underdeveloped for the kind of connection you were offering. And that's not your fault. You were whole before he found you, and though he may have cracked the surface, he never destroyed the core, because at your center is a force too divine to be diminished by a man who didn't know what to do with it. And when you rise from that, when you stop trying to make someone your home and decide to become your own sanctuary, the universe shifts. People sense it. Not just him. Your energy changes. You walk differently. You stop over-explaining, overextending, over-apologizing. You start doing things that make you feel alive again, writing, traveling, singing in the car with the windows down, dancing alone in your living room, not for attention but for joy. You learn how to enjoy your own company, and that's the magic he never expected. He expected you to crumble, to chase, to mourn him so deeply that your identity would erode with his departure. But instead, you became more of yourself, because the love that really matters, the one that reshapes everything, is not the love you give to him. It's the love you return to yourself. You started talking to yourself differently. Instead of "what's wrong with me?" you asked, "Why was I trying to prove myself to someone who couldn't see me?" Instead of "Why did he stop choosing me?" you whispered, "Why was I choosing someone who never truly chose me at all?" And those questions, they became the beginning of your freedom. You no longer needed closure from him, because you gave it to yourself. You didn't need validation from his words, because your own became more powerful. You stopped needing him to see your worth, because for the first time you saw it, unfiltered, unapologetic, undeniable. You found beauty in your scars, strength in your softness, power in your presence. And now he's the one staring at the door you closed, wondering how the woman he thought he had on a string became the one thing he can no longer reach. But by the time he realizes what he lost, you'll be too far gone, not out of spite, not from bitterness, but because healing taught you not to settle. You're not interested in reliving a love that felt like starvation. You're not going back to a man who only reached for you when he was empty. You're not returning to the version of yourself who needed to be needed in order to feel whole. You're chasing something richer now. Love that shows up, love that stays, love that feels like home, not because it's familiar, but because it's safe, kind, honest. You want someone who sees you not as an option, but as a mirror. Someone who recognizes the soul in you because they've done the work to uncover their own. Someone who doesn't just want to be loved, but who knows how to love deeply, consistently, completely. And here's the truth, he never understood. You never needed him to complete you. You needed him to reflect the parts of you that still believed you were incomplete, and he did. His love, or lack thereof, held up a mirror to your wounds. It showed you where you were still aching, where you were still doubting your worth. But once you saw it, once you really saw it, you stopped waiting for him to change. You changed. You let him go. And in doing so, let go of the part of yourself that thought you had to earn love through pain. You stopped mistaking chaos for passion. You stopped thinking love had to hurt to be real. You stopped rewriting yourself to fit into someone else's broken narrative. And now, you're writing a new story. One where the heroine doesn't just survive the heartbreak. She transcends it. She doesn't just move on. She evolves. She doesn't just learn to live without him. She learns to live for herself. You've become that woman. The one who stopped answering late-night texts that only came when he was lonely. The one who blocked his number, not because she hated him, but because she finally respected herself enough to protect her peace. The one who turned her pain into purpose, her grief into growth. And somewhere out there he feels it. Maybe he doesn't say it out loud. Maybe he never reaches out. But deep down, he knows. He knows he lost something extraordinary. Not because you changed, but because you stopped dimming your light for someone who preferred shadows. He let you go, thinking you'd stay stuck in the space he left behind. But instead, you became everything he was never ready for. And the tragedy, he won't find that version of you again, because that version, the one who tolerated less, accepted crumbs, and silenced her truth, no longer exists. You buried her in the silence he left behind. And in her place rose a woman he will never be able to reach again. They always come back. Not always with words. Sometimes it's just the energy, the curiosity, the haunting realization that the door they casually closed now opens to a life they no longer have access to. He let you go thinking it was a temporary pause. Maybe he needed space. Maybe he was confused. Maybe he wanted freedom. But he forgot that your love doesn't wait in storage. It doesn't sit idle on a shelf waiting for him to figure it out. Because love like yours, it moves, it grows, it transforms. And that's exactly what it did. While he was busy wandering, you were building. While he flirted with distractions, you dove into rediscovery. He thought he'd come back to the same woman, but instead, he returned to someone he no longer knew. Because heartbreak didn't break you. It built you. In the quiet of his absence, you met your own soul. And God, she was magnificent. You started paying attention to your own needs. You no longer begged to be seen. You looked in the mirror and saw yourself fully for the first time. The warmth in your laughter, the wisdom in your scars, the kindness you carried, even when the world gave you every reason to close up. You no longer measured your value by how much someone wanted to keep you. You became the kind of woman who didn't need to be chosen because you chose yourself. That kind of power doesn't scream. It doesn't flaunt. It whispers in the quiet confidence of boundaries held, of tears transmuted into wisdom, of nights once filled with longing, now filled with peace. And now he feels the shift. Maybe it hits him on a random Tuesday. Maybe he sees a picture of you, smiling, radiant, untouched by the weight he thought you'd carry forever. Maybe a song plays, and it brings back the version of you who used to light up every room he entered. The version who would have done anything just to be enough. But that version is gone, replaced by a woman who no longer proves her worth through pain. A woman who's not afraid to be alone, because her solitude is no longer loneliness, but liberation. He scrolls, he watches, he waits, but you no longer look back. Because once you taste your own power, there is no going back to places you had to shrink to fit. You've stopped trying to convince someone to choose you. Instead, you're building a life so rich, so grounded, so aligned, that only someone ready will be able to walk beside you. Because the truth is, he didn't lose you the moment he walked away. He lost you the moment he took your love for granted. The moment he mistook your softness for weakness. The moment he saw your loyalty and thought it meant you'd never leave. But you did. Not with fireworks, not with drama, but with quiet dignity. Because real strength isn't loud. It's the calm in your voice when you say, I'm done. It's the grace with which you let go, not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring about yourself more. And here's what's wild. The moment you stop chasing love, love begins to chase you, because now you're no longer operating from emptiness. You're not looking to be completed. You are whole. That's the kind of energy that can't be faked. It doesn't seek attention. It commands respect. And when someone truly healed enters your life next, they won't be confused, they won't be hot and cold, they won't run when things get deep or complicated, because they've done the work. Because they've met their own shadow, faced their own demons, and realized that love isn't about possession, it's about presence. They'll look at you and say, I see you, and you'll believe it. Because now you've seen yourself. But here's something deeper, you needed him. Yes, not forever, but for the mirror he became. He reflected every wound you hadn't healed, every story you told yourself about not being enough, every part of you that equated pain with passion. His absence forced you to confront the void inside you and fill it with your own light. Without him, maybe you wouldn't have gone this deep. Maybe you would have continued people-pleasing, over-giving, waiting. But his letting go was the ignition of your return to yourself. So in some strange, beautiful way, you're grateful, not for the hurt, but for the awakening. You stopped confusing your heart's intensity with someone else's inconsistency. You realized you weren't asking for too much. You were just asking the wrong person. And now you've outgrown what once kept you small. You've stopped being afraid of endings because now you understand they're just beginnings in disguise. You've stopped clinging to potential because now you value reality. You've stopped settling for half love because now you crave the whole experience. Real connection, sacred intimacy, the kind of love that doesn't flinch at your fire, but matches it. The kind of love that sits with you in the storm and doesn't leave when the rain starts, because you've sat with yourself through your own storm. And now you know what it means to stay. He didn't expect that. He didn't expect you to heal so loudly in your silence. He didn't expect you to rise, not bitter, but better. And you didn't become this woman to make him regret. You became her because you deserved her all along. The woman who walks with her head high, not out of arrogance, but out of knowing the hell she crawled out of. The woman who no longer performs to be loved but lives authentically and knows she is worthy by birthright. The woman who holds space for love, but only when it arrives with clarity, with courage, with care. So if he ever comes back, confused by the fire in your eyes, the softness in your strength, the quiet in your detachment, just smile, because you'll know you don't belong to your past. You belong to your becoming, and the man who once let you go, he'll spend the rest of his life realizing he didn't just lose a woman, he lost a revolution. If this message spoke to your heart, if you saw yourself in these words and felt even a flicker of strength returning, don't leave without showing some love. Hit that like button to let us know this resonated with you. Comment below and share your story. We read every one, and your voice might be the light someone else needs right now. And if you're ready for more content that empowers your healing, confidence, and self-worth, subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss a moment of your transformation. You're not alone in this journey, and this is just the beginning.